2023 has been non-stop banger after banger everywhere you look. And Baldur's Gate 3 looks to be the newest success story in 2023. Now, this seemingly comes out of nowhere unless you're like a big Baldur's Gate fan specifically, or you're like really big into that CRPG scene. Me personally, I've never been into Baldur's Gate or CRPGs, so this wasn't really something that I had on my radar. I noticed it. I heard some people talking about it among some smaller circles, saying how this is going to be the RPG of the year. This is going to be game of the year. And I kind of was just like, Baldur's Gate has never really been a mainstream success. It's been more of like, if you're really like big into PC RPGs, yes, this is a game for you. But it's not a game for the masses. Yet, we're seeing all these rave reviews, tons of people hopping on Baldur's Gate. And then we get the 97 Metacritic score. So far, the best rated game of 2023 is Baldur's Gate 3. So I guess I want to start this question. Is Baldur's Gate 3 capable of winning Game of the Year? Full disclosure before I get into this, I have yet to play Baldur's Gate 3. I don't really play PC like that. So I'm waiting for it to come to PlayStation 5, but I'm very interested in checking this game out. Just because of this hype that's been kind of drummed up about this game. I want to see what it's about. I want to kind of create my own character and go through this journey and just overall see what the fuss is about. Now, to answer the question, is Baldur's Gate 3 capable of winning a Game of the Year? Obviously. When you drum up this much hype, when you get a 97 Metacritic score, when you're as big of a game as Baldur's Gate 3 is, yes, you're obviously in the Game of the Year conversation. I don't think anyone's denying that fact. I think we have one question that we really got to ask though. Can this game dethrone the game that we've all been talking about? It's in the back of our heads, and everyone in the gaming industry knows that Tears of the Kingdom coming into 2023 is the shoe-in to win Game of the Year. So, yeah, I guess we got to compare every game to Tears of the Kingdom. Can they dethrone Tears of the Kingdom so far? And I think Baldur's Gate 3, out of all the games that I've discussed personally, I think could win Game of the Year. This is the one that I genuinely believe could actually be the one. The main reason is because when you think about Game of the Year, you normally think about, okay, what is just the best game that came out story-wise, graphically, gameplay, etc. But when you add things like Tears of the Kingdom that also innovates on so much, that has this big open world that allows for creative freedom within the player, you kind of got to meet it there, right? You can't just have a game that has a great story. You can't just have a game that has amazing graphics anymore. You have to have something a little bit more. And I think that's what Baldur's Gate 3. I think if any game this year that releases, Baldur's Gate 3 can meet Tears of the Kingdom, or if not, surpass Tears of the Kingdom on things like creative freedom, on things like allowing the player to play the game as they see fit. Not to mention the fact that you can play it by yourself, you can play it locally, split screen, you can play it online with a group of people. So not only does it create this sense of I want to play this game how I want to play it and enjoy the story that I want to enjoy and kind of just see where this game takes me. It also has a community base behind it. Not to mention all the rave reviews and the Metacritic score. Overall, Baldur's Gate 3 has just been an amazing success, and I'm glad to hear all this chatter about it. But how did this happen? How did we get to this position where Baldur's Gate 3, a game that was virtually unknown to majority of the gaming audience, to the mainstream, etc., a game that had very little marketing up to its run-up, a game that has a very weird staggered release on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, all releasing different times, how did this game manage to garner such critical and commercial approval? So, again, as I said in the beginning, I haven't played the game. But from what I gathered, from the things that I heard, and the stories that people tell me, and the streams that I've been watching, this is an RPG in the most RPG sense of an RPG. You take control of your character story, and you take control of the world, and it's fully lived in, and there's like voice acting and all these things working in tandem to create your own personalized experience. All these games that have been inspired by D&D have took it to different directions, have told their own stories, have never really gave you complete freedom like this. This is D&D in the main sense of D&D to its core, where it's your story, your created character, living out in this world that the dungeon master has like written out for you. So I get that appeal. I get why that speaks to an audience. But how did it cross over to the mainstream? I think a big part of that happens to be the fact that RPGs, specifically in a more modern era, have been more console based focused. Most of these games, these big RPGs, want that PlayStation audience. They've catered to people like me with our linear stories, with our set paths, with our set reactions, and everyone has these moments that kind of play out. And that's great. There's people who like that. I like that. I love that. But there's also another core audience that doesn't like that within RPGs. And that core audience is specifically found mainly on PCs. I feel like a PC gamer who's into RPGs likes that kind of creative freedom to just take the story where they want, to mess with it and play with it, engage with it differently, where everyone has a different experience that is also community based. So I feel like this game specifically knew its audience to its core. They catered to the PC gamers and disregarded what console fans might like. They made an experience tailor-made for you to make your own story and kind of just see how this world plays out and reacts to your reactions, reacts to your engagement. And I really like that. And I feel like in a world where, yeah, us console gamers primarily rule where gaming goes, we primarily get our Witchers and our Final Fantasy 16s and our God of Wars, and PC gamers honestly don't really like those games. That's the reason why they primarily play on PC. So when you get a game as big as Baldur's Gate and they get a chance to just express themselves fully and play their game, yeah, they're gonna shout about it. They're gonna scream from the mountaintops about it. And us console gamers, we hear what they're saying. We hear them saying how fun it is, how engaging it is, how different, how innovative. All these praises that we hear, yeah, it makes us pay attention. And then you get pre-orders on PlayStation 5 that skyrocket. Xbox fans a little upset that this game isn't coming to Xbox. All these things that kind of tied in together, I think Baldur's Gate 3, aside from being an amazing, innovative game that really speaks to its audience, I think was able to break through all the noise of, Starfields and the Final Fantasy 16s and the Tears of the Kingdoms, because of the fact that they primarily made their game for their audience, and then their audience spread through word of mouth, spread the gospel truth of how great Baldur's Gate 3 is. And the rest of us heard it and we paid attention. So I think one of the best things Larian was able to do was release this game early so that the PC gamers wouldn't have Starfield to play with. They'll have Baldur's Gate 3 to take up all their time and attention. Us PlayStation fans are going to hear about all these great things from Baldur's Gate 3 from a distance, which makes us more anticipated, more hyped. It kind of play into a little bit of that FOMO. I think, honestly, this game does not speak to console fans, and I don't think they realize it too much. I think they just hear all these cool, crazy things that this game does, and you see the cinematics, and then you see the storytelling, you're like, wow, this looks really cool. But I think when they actually see, like, the gameplay, I think they're going to be a little confused. I think there's going to be a lot of menus that they're not really used to engaging with. I think there's going to be a lot of, like, turn-based role-playing that's going to be strange for some, like, more mainstream console fans. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to matter because they're going to be so sucked up in the world. They're going to be so engaged with what's going on that they're going to see the magic of this game. And I'm hoping that when I get this game, it definitely lives up to the hype that I'm expecting from it, that I'm seeing other people have fun with it. And yeah, ultimately, Baldur's Gate 3 is living proof that if you give the gamer what they want, if you release a complete game with no microtransactions to bog them down and it's just straight up game, then yeah, you're going to get that success. You're going to get them spreading the word about this, because ultimately your fan base is going to want more of this. They're going to want more people playing this, because the more people playing this means more Baldur's Gate style games, which means developers have to pay attention to what they did so they can garner the same kind of critiques and criticisms and appraisals that this game has received. Ultimately, again, I haven't played it yet. I'm very excited to play it, and I do think that come Game of the Year, this is a strong contender for the actual winner, not just a nominee. These are all my final thoughts. I'll leave the rest to the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. Do me a favor before you guys head out. Like the video if you guys enjoyed the video. Please consider subscribing, as it does help me out tons. And with that, I'll see you guys on the next video.